All right, question from my guys over at From Bros to Pros. Would you ever move back up to the 93s? Basically saying, would I go back up to 93 kilogram weight class? Because that's what I used to compete at. I now compete in 83 kilogram. And I would never say never, okay? But at this point, I have no plans on ever going back up to 93 because I want to be competitive. And I think that for me to be truly competitive, I need to be in 83s. I just feel like there's no way I could possibly compete at that level with the 93s. But at the same time, you know what, being competitive may not be my goal for long term. I don't know. Like, I'll tell you this, when I went through my cut, when I went from 210 pounds down to 176, when I was the most happy with not only how I felt but how I looked, I was probably like in the high 180s, which would be, what would that be, like 86 kilograms, somewhere in there, 85, 86 kilograms. So, I mean, if I just wanted to be okay with how I looked, feel good, and be stronger, and not have to worry about water cuts or cutting down for a meet or anything like that, you know, it would make sense to compete in 93s then and just roll into the meet weighing, you know, 190 some pounds and just being okay with it. That could happen someday. But at this point, no, I want to be competitive. I want to do the best I can. I want to see how far I can push myself, how far I can go. You know what, long term, I'm 3 years away from Masters. Like, I feel like if I can stay healthy and I can keep progressing well, I can do some serious damage in Masters, but we'll just have to see. So, another good question. I like that. Thank you. All right. Jeff with Fitness Oriented asks, what 3 fitness YouTubers do you like the least? I'm not playing that game, Jeff. I don't do the drama. I don't play those games. But what I will say is I don't like anybody who does just that, who purposely creates drama just to gather a following, that calls out people and just goes crazy and just tries to get attention and has no integrity and things like that. So you can probably think of some people like that. You probably know some of the people that I'm talking about, but those are the people that I don't like. But you know what? If I don't like you, I just don't watch your channel, so there's no reason for me to even not like your channel because I won't know anything about it. You know, I don't stick around and just watch somebody's channel just because they exist or they're big. Like, I have to like your channel to watch it. Okay, next question. How can HIIT cardio interfere with resistance training? How can you add a HIIT session into your DUP program? All right, so again, that's kind of an open-ended question. It depends on a lot of things, obviously. It depends. But can HIIT cardio be done with a DUP program? Of course, absolutely. How much really depends on what your goals are, what you like, what you can tolerate, things like that. Now, one of the things with HIIT is it's actually specific to body parts, right? So like cycling has been shown to be really good for, or not really good, but be effective with leg hypertrophy in combination with strength training program, probably because of hip flexion, right? So it's a similar movement to like squats, whereas if you do HIIT with a bike, it's probably not going to affect your arms, so to speak. It's body part specific, but it's also very taxing. It's very tiring. So you don't want to sacrifice your weight training for cardio, pretty much ever. So if you're doing HIIT and it's fatiguing you and you can't do as well through your resistance training programs, it's probably not a very good idea. If you need to do some cardio for a bigger deficit, if you're in a weight loss phase, then maybe LISS is better. You know, HIIT is not necessarily superior to LISS. Now it is in terms of calories burned per minute, but either one can be used, all right? So it really just depends on you, your body, what you prefer, and what your goals are. So, I mean, it can be added to a DUP program or any program whatsoever, but I'm sorry, it just depends. But if you want to get more specific with me, leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to talk with you. Okay, next question. This is a really good question. Is it a bad idea to stay in a caloric deficit while trying to recover from an injury? Could a surplus and adequate rest therapy help to recover faster? So when I initially read this, I thought, you know what, I really don't know. Like, I don't know. So I wanted to set out and see what I could find and just kind of look at some data, see what was out there. I didn't find a ton, but I did find a study that looked at wound healing, whether being in a surplus would help or not. And what it really did show was actually it does seem to help with wound healing. Okay, so basically through better increases in protein synthesis, I can never say that word, protein synthesis, your body is able to recover better and help build and restore faster. So there might be something to being in a surplus to recover faster. Now, with that being said, in my opinion, now I'm not an expert on this, but my opinion would be it's probably not significant, and it also just depends on, you know, what you're willing to go through. Now, you know, do you want to gain some fat to potentially heal from your injury faster? You know, kind of a trade-off, and there's no guarantees that it is going to heal that much faster. So my thought would be, if you are in a deficit and you get an injury, it might be a good idea to go back into roughly maintenance and just wait it out, hold where you're at, make sure your body is able to recover a little bit better with a little more calories and maybe not be in a deficit. But if you have to be in a deficit for some sort of a goal or whatever, you're probably going to be okay. In my opinion, again, not an expert on this, I'm just giving you my opinion, I would stay somewhere around maintenance, personally. All right, Gregory P asks, shoulder mobility exercises other than shoulder dislocations for low bar squats. I get some elbow pain when low bar squatting, also reduced butt wink and low bar squat, apparently severe butt wink. So my first thing that I would say is seriously see a specialist, see a physical therapist. And I'm not saying that as like a cop-out answer. I mean, this is someone who specializes in this. They can take a look at you, they can run you through some tests, and they can figure out exactly why you're having this pain, what your dysfunction is, and how to fix it. Okay, so me, who I don't even specialize in this type of stuff, it's not like my background, so to speak. It would be a total guess for me. All right, so I mean, personally, I don't even think it's probably your shoulder. I'm guessing, I don't know. It's probably not your shoulders. I'm guessing it's something else. You might have really tight triceps, you might have tight biceps, maybe it's your forearms. I would try doing soft tissue work through that. Take your triceps, especially if you're a powerlifter and you do a lot of bench pressing, your triceps are probably really tight, and if you do some soft tissue work through that, if you lay on the ground with a lacrosse ball and roll it and take care of that, that might help significantly. If that's really flaring up, you wouldn't believe like where pain can come from. It's never where you think it's coming from, and when you can release those trigger points, it usually makes a world of a difference. But again, with that said, soft tissue work is like a band-aid, okay? I mean, it can help. It definitely will help short term. It'll make you feel better, and it will get you pain-free. But if you have some sort of a dysfunction in your body that's creating these trigger points and these spots that are getting sore on you all the time, once you release them and you go back to doing what you've been doing, they're just going to come right back again. You're going to go through the same thing. So you need to be able to fix the original problem, and I can't tell you what that is. Now with your butt wink, again, okay, same thing, see a PT. The other thing is it butt wink or is it lumbar flexion? Because there's a big difference. Now, just about everybody, when they get below parallel, they're gonna have some form of butt wink, even with like perfect technique. It's largely anatomy dependent, okay? So for some people to get deep enough to go below parallel and to have like no doubt depth, some people, they're gonna have pretty significant butt wink, and there's really nothing they can do to get away from it just because of their anatomy. But now if your back is nice and neutral throughout the lift, and you're keeping things, you know, in line the way they should be, and then it winks at the end, so it's probably fine. There's probably nothing you can do about it. But if it's something else, it's probably got more to do with your technique not being right to begin with, your technique being off, and there being some lumbar flexion as you get towards the bottom of the lift, and you need to fix that cause before you can do anything else. So again, I'm sorry that I can't give you a straight up answer, but that's my advice for you. Okay, next question comes from Mark Anderson. Thoughts on 5-3-1? In your opinion, what do you like about it? What do you agree with? And how do you think it could be better? Okay, so let me preface this by first saying that I've never actually gone through the actual 5-3-1 program. I know what it is, I've read about it, I've looked at it, so I'm familiar with it, but I've never actually done it to actually go through it and give it a fair evaluation. But I'll say this: it's not a bad program. It's fine. It'll work. It'll do its job. But it's one of those things where, okay, you can't just do 5-3-1 forever. And I'm more of a big believer in a bigger undulation of reps. Now, Not that 5-3-1 is not a big enough undulation. I'm usually 2 reps apart anyway too, but I would rather go through a higher volume period and then slowly kind of increase the intensity and reduce the volume as you get heavier and heavier through time through each and every single block to peak at the right time. Now 5-3-1, that's actually the rep scheme that I pretty much do if I'm going to be peaking for a meet. So it has that, but what I don't like about it is it's weekly undulation instead of daily undulation. I really prefer the daily instead of the weekly, but weekly is not bad. I mean, it'll still work. I just prefer daily personally, but it's certainly better than like linear block periodization for sure. And it relies a little bit more on assistance work, which if you know me at all, I've talked about that in a different question already. I prefer more specificity. I prefer more doing the actual movement itself over accessory work. So it's a little more accessory based than I like, but that doesn't mean it's bad. All right, so it's not a bad program by any means. It's not the best program. It's just something you can do if you want to try it once, but just I wouldn't continue to do it all the time. All right, question from Jackie. Thoughts on the Sheiko, I never know how to pronounce that program. And also, what do you think of benching with a wider grip, let's say 3rd finger on the knurling bar, currently using 5th finger on it. All right, so in terms of the program, now I'm not super familiar with it. Again, I've never done it, I've never run it, I've seen it, I've looked it over. I thought about doing it a long time ago before I knew kind of anything. And I think I did Smoloff instead, which it's a similar type of thing. It's a very high volume program and it's pretty intense. It's not gonna be for the faint of heart. Now, is it a good idea? Again, it depends, all right? Is it a good idea for somebody who's new to powerlifting or new to training in general to jump into this program? Absolutely not. It will absolutely destroy you, all right? I say it all the time, increase your volume appropriately. So it's not something that just anybody should pick up and do. Now, if you're already used to pretty high volume programs and you want to try something different and something new and something fresh and you're not doing your own, you struggle to do your own programming, sure, it's fine. Why not? Do it. It's great. And it goes through different phases, so I like that about it too. It's not just kind of like always the same thing. So can it work? Yes. As always, it just kind of depends. And in terms of the wider grip, you know, it just whatever you prefer, man. Like, try it out. Try it. See how you like it. I mean, the nice thing with the wider grip is it's going to be a shorter range of motion. You know, your bar doesn't have as far to travel. For me personally, I used to have a pretty narrow grip. I felt stronger. It was actually really narrow, and I think I had my pinky on the inside, like even off on the inside of the knurling, or off, not the knurling, excuse me, the ring, and now I literally go as far as legally allowed with USAPL, and I have my pinky finger on the actual ring itself. And for me personally, I didn't feel way stronger immediately when I did that or anything, but the big difference for me is I can grind so much better with a nice wide grip. If I hit a sticking point with that wide grip, I can most of the time power through it, not always, but most of the time I at least feel like I have a chance. Whereas if I've got a narrower grip, the bar never failed. The bar would come back on my face and I'd be dead. I wouldn't be able to control it. So there's benefits to it, but again, it just has a lot to do with your anatomy, what you're comfortable with, how you feel the strongest. And I would say go as wide as you can comfortably until you feel like you're losing some strength and stability. You know, for some people it's going to be all the way. For some people it's going to be narrow. I mean, you just got to play around with it and figure out what works best for you. All right, so I think that's it. That did kind of get long, so that probably did end up being 2 videos, but I guess we'll find out after I do the editing. But thank you guys for the questions. I really appreciate it. If you want me to follow up on anything that I said, put it in the comments below. I'll be happy to have that discussion with you, and then I'll see you guys in the next video.